After picking up our hire car at Dublin Airport, we drove to the Irish National Stud at Tully near Kildare. The site was founded by Colonel William Hall Walker in 1900, who set about turning the Tully land into one of Europe's premier studs. Breeders from around the world send mares to be mated with the fine stallions here. Current favourite, Big Bad Bob, commands a stud fee of €9,000. The Horse Museum contains the skeleton of the legendary steeplechaser Arkle. Founder Colonel Walker also had an interest in horticulture, creating the magnificent Japanese gardens on this 800-acre site. Travelling from the stud farm, we made our way to Kilkenny and an overnight stop. We only had a short time the next morning to further admire Kilkenny's 12th century castle and parkland. Our aim that day was to journey further south to the city of Waterford. Waterford stands by an excellent natural harbour. The name Waterford comes from an Old Norse word, and the city is thought to be the oldest surviving Viking town in Europe. The Waterford Crystal Factory was closed in 2009, but it has been replaced by a new facility. Here visitors see highly skilled craftsmen at work. Now concentrating on prestige and high-end pieces, traditional methods are still used. Some exquisite items are on display, and of course, tourists can purchase some of these, at a price. Making our way along the coast, we had a brief stop at Youghal. Youghal is a pretty resort at the mouth of the River Blackwater. It was also where director John Huston chose to shoot some of the exteriors for his film Moby Dick in the 1950s. From Youghal, it was a relatively short drive to the town of Cove. The Cove Heritage Centre contains a multimedia exhibition located in a restored Victorian railway station. The centre tells the story of emigration from Ireland from the time of the Great Famine in 1847. A ship cinema showing news clips relating to the area has also been incorporated.
Today we bring you news and views from one of Southern Ireland's most beautiful and vibrant towns, the coastal town of Cove. From busy port to pleasure port, from active to recessionary times, this town has experienced life in all its aspects. There is more to sea transport than just cargo. The pleasure cruise is always a favourite. Just look at this luxury liner, the Arcadia. This is a holiday with style. Plenty of room in this cabin.
Outside the Heritage Centre is a statue of Annie Moore with her 2 younger brothers. Annie was the first person to be admitted to the USA through the then new facility at Ellis Island. Cove, once known as Queenstown, is situated on one of the world's largest natural harbours. It was from this historic landing stage that passengers embarked from the last port of call for the ill-fated Titanic in 1912. Our next journey took us from Cove to the Killarney region, with its beautiful lakes and mountains. Arriving in the early evening, we were soon able to appreciate the lovely natural surroundings of our country hotel. The following day, we decided to leave the car behind and take a scenic coach tour of the famous Ring of Kerry. Our first stop was at the Heritage Award-winning Kerry Bog Village. The village gives a fascinating insight into how people lived and worked in Ireland during the 18th century. Most of the buildings are in fact replicas, but great care has been taken with their authenticity and construction. Another highlight of our tour was a visit to the Kells Sheep Centre.
Jacob's sheep are a quite old variety that go back to biblical times. They're 2-colour wool as the hand-knit or handmade sweaters, and the double horns are a normality for these.
Local farmer Brendan Ferris is a master of the art of sheep herding, and it was a real privilege to watch him demonstrate his skills. Continuing along the southern shores of Dingle Bay, there were many opportunities for fine views and photographs. On the final leg of our circular trip, we were treated to a short but fascinating weaving demonstration.
Now, in order for the shuttle to fly across, we're pulling on these handles here, and they activate pickers on the left and the right of the panel, and they literally send the shuttle flying right across the loom.
Travelling north the next day to the Galway area, we decided to break our journey at Bunratty. Overlooked by medieval Bunratty Castle is a folk park containing a charming 19th century village street.
Is it a peaceful town to be the policeman of?
Yeah, the children are the biggest culprits, I'm afraid.
$17.70. Now be careful of your money, okay? It used to be the general store and the post office. So that's why we would have all the bits and bobs. And they used to do drapery, which you can see from behind, and do all the pots and pans and that. And then as the village grew, they would have changed, and the stores, the hardware store would have come on board, and then they would have sold all this stuff, you know, so they would.
The ban Ati would have been the lady of the house, and like say in Corrie's pub now, the men would have been in one side of the pub, but the ladies would have been in the other side and drinking tea and keeping the fire going, and then she just did the cleaning around the place and baking and cleaning, and so.
After overnighting in Galway, we again decided to book a coach tour of the magnificent cliffs of Moher and the Burren. Standing at the edge of the Atlantic Ocean, this is Ireland's most spectacular coastline, with cliffs some 214 metres high and 8 kilometres long. The unique limestone landscape, known as the Burren, is home to over 70% of Ireland's native flora. Leaving Galway, we headed back to Dublin, but again allowing time for a break in our journey. Nestling beside the River Shannon, Clonmacnoise is an ancient Christian site founded by St. Kieran. The original high crosses have been transferred into an adjoining visitor centre, which also depicts the craftsmanship of the early stonemasons. And on to Dublin's fair city. The magnificent Christ Church Cathedral can be dated back to Viking times. The remains of Strongbow, the infamous Norman conqueror of Ireland, are buried here. Treasures held in the crypt and some dazzling stained glass windows are also of note. Dublin gets its name from the Black Pool, or Dove Linn, which was on the site of the present castle gardens. Inside the castle, the state apartments are now the venue for Ireland's most important state events, including the inauguration of the Irish president every 7 years. St. Patrick's Cathedral has contributed much to Irish life throughout its history. Jonathan Swift was dean here in the early 1700s, and the cathedral choir sang at the first performance of Handel's Messiah in Dublin. One of the world's great research libraries is at Trinity College, holding the largest collection of manuscripts and printed books in Ireland. The library contains the famous Book of Kells, written around 800 AD. The college's grounds are beautiful, but we had one last essential visit to make before the end of our round Ireland tour.